This is episode 300 of Mitolife Radio. I'm Matt Blackburn. Today I'm interviewing Dan Baird of NADS Underwear. So he has male products that are clean, that prevent BPA and microplastics and phthalates and toxic dyes and bleaches and forever chemicals, formaldehyde, fertilizers, and pesticides from going into the male reproductive organs, the testes, and causing decreases in testosterone, infertility, erectile dysfunction, and serious chronic disease. And for the ladies out there, at the bottom of his website, he does share another brand that he's affiliated with. So at the bottom of NADS Under, click the Ladies tab, and that'll take you to the women's version of this type of underwear, where you're not going to get exposed to all these crazy chemicals that are in modern underwear. All the moisture wicking, the polyester, the synthetic, stretchy material. I share my experience Christmas shopping for my family every year with Dan and my frustration with big box stores and all of the toxic clothing that they sell. And yes, it's cheaper and there's usually big discounts, but I think people have to start voting with their dollars. That's the best way and really the only effective way to truly vote is with your money and switching to buying products online. And I did this years ago with nutritional supplements because most of the health food stores do not carry the best supplements. It's just how it is. The best supplements you will only find on the internet. And the same goes for clothing. And this is for the most part. It's not a hard, fast rule. There's exceptions, but for the most part, you'll find the best products online. In the show, Dan talks about how he got involved in this industry when he was diagnosed with low testosterone. He talks about things that helped increase his testosterone besides changing his clothing and bed sheets. Talks about how sauna was a part of it, improving his nutrition, dialing in his sleep, looking at his vitamin D level, how Shilajit helped him, how he reduced his stress and the stress and testosterone connection. Then we get really deep into the details, talking about the certification of clothing, why I switched from smart wool briefs to the NADS briefs that he sells. And I focus in on the elastic waistband and the issues with that. And then I ask him listener questions, including, can these chemicals get washed out of the clothing? What are the best workout clothing options? School us on how we're greenwashed with clothes that sound good, but are still toxic. Which laundry detergent is best? And much more. So enjoy. Here is Dan Baird. All right, Dan Baird, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. Pumped to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I've listened to a couple of your other interviews with podcasters on your underwear, and you've created something really cool. I've been into human health for 14 years and always talked about testosterone decline, especially as a former vegan and vegetarian for many years. It seems like an epidemic, and it's evident that we're experiencing that decline in society with what we're allowing to happen, especially the last 4 years, and just the being too lenient with letting people make decisions for us. And one of the big factors in declining testosterone, I mean, there's hundreds, right? Maybe thousands, but the clothes that we wear. And I've experimented with silver embedded clothing for EMF blocking. I don't do that anymore. There's all these options, infrared, bioceramic embedded clothing. I usually wear that at night. like the Imana product.
Mm.
And we just have so many options out there, but a lot of people are opting for just your Lululemon, your stretchy, whether it's Under Armour or the female versions, just workout gear. And that stuff's just horrible for us, right? I mean, not only for declining hormones, but actually increasing the incidence of cancer.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the whole premise of why we started NADS was basically we were looking at toxins and chemicals commonly found in clothing, and it was kind of specific towards workout underwear for us. Obviously, through the lens of reproductive health, the clothing that you put on the part of your body that literally produces testosterone matters most, right? We always say base layer matters most. We're the underwear guys, so we focus on underwear. But the issue does extend out past underwear, right? It's just kind of the overall textile industry as a whole, whether it be, socks, shorts, underwear, shirts, hats, whatever, you name it. There's unfortunately been this trend to where a lot of the manufacturing and production behind these garments has just called for the use of a lot of toxins and chemicals to make them, right? Whether it's to make them water resistant, waterproof, stain resistant, to have more rigidity, to be able to last longer. Essentially, it's kind of like preservatives for the fabric, and they get embedded into the fabric, and they don't come out with a typical wash cycle. So our skin, being our largest organ on the body, absorbs everything it touches. So the problematic area here is that the chemicals and toxins in the clothing can then be absorbed directly through skin contact. And then a lot of these chemicals have been found to be known endocrine disruptors, which can obviously throw off your entire hormonal balance and cause things like infertility, erectile dysfunction, and sure enough, decreased testosterone. And a lot of these things as well, formaldehyde specifically, has been tied to certain types of cancers for sure.
Yeah, it's wild. Every Christmas, I'll go to, Kohl's or one of these big chains and look for my mom and dad clothing Christmas shopping. And it just blows my mind. Like the options there are minimal. There's always something in there in the pants or the shirt or whatever it is that I know I don't want to introduce to them. And I just keep seeing people getting these cancer diagnoses and they don't know where it came from. And this is such an overlooked topic. I mean, especially like you said, with whether it's male or female undergarments, it's just directly into the testes or the ovaries. I think it's like one of the biggest silent poisons that we're dealing with. I mean, people focus on EMFs and heavy metals and all this stuff, but you think about 24/7 exposure, it's
Right.
pretty
It's like a
intense.
feedback loop, just never
Yeah.
ends, whatever. It would be like if I'm just constantly rubbing a poisonous lotion on my skin, right? It's kind of it, and maybe an over dramatized way of looking at it, but at the same time, like I don't think we can really over dramatize it. It's a real issue. The chemicals and toxins that we're exposed to in our environment wreak havoc on our bodies, right? And a lot of those chemicals and toxins, sure enough, are found in the clothing that we're wearing 24/7.
Yeah. So how did you get interested in this? Was it a personal experience yourself or family, or how did this
Yeah.
start?
So I will try and tell this story in about as consolidated as a way as possible because sometimes it takes me 45 minutes, sometimes it takes me 40 seconds. But long story short, I've always kind of have a proclivity towards health and wellness, and it was really through the lens of sport and fitness growing up. Longtime lacrosse and football player, kind of an avid gym goer, mixed martial arts fighter way back in the day. So kind of just like always been go, go, go. And I was always trying to fuel my body effectively. And flash forward to 21 years old, I had a fluke accident where I fractured my C4 vertebrae in my neck. And it was I hit my head in the bottom of a shallow pool. And I ended up with just like a host of imbalances in my neck, into my lower back, into my mid back, and kind of just all out in the backside of my body. And it was just leading to a bunch of inflammation. And luckily, I wasn't paralyzed or anything like that. So I still had structural function and there was no issues there. But I was dealing with just chronic inflammation after that as what I thought was the result of the injury. That brought a whole bunch of stress. My cortisol was through the roof. And then eventually I started kind of getting fed up with the answers or lack thereof I was getting from conventional medicine, right? And the world of doctors that we live in today. So kind of got to a point where he was like, all right, enough is enough. And I met up with a functional medicine practitioner. I was 23 at this point. It's been about a year and a half since it happened. And I was like, here's what's going on. I have chronic fatigue. I have brain fog. I have crazy fluctuating energy levels. I train hard. I try and get good sleep. I'm eating clean. At least I thought I was. And these are the things I'm dealing with. And my back hurts all the time, but I don't have, the structural problem isn't prohibitive of me doing things. It just causes, discomfort. So I'm trying to find a way to start to just improve my quality of life. And first thing he was like, okay, well, let's talk about this, this, and this. But first, before we even go down that road, let's do blood work. We'll get you in here for a round of labs. So we did that. And I had, you think like right now, like that makes sense. Let's go look under the surface and what's happening. Back then, it was like, okay, a full round of labs. Look, that should be the first thing we do regardless. That made sense. Not as much then. Obviously, it does now. So we did a full round of labs. And long story short, it came back and it would reveal that I had low testosterone. I had a host of other things going on in the body as well, some nutritional deficiencies, a couple of imbalances. And the biggest thing that stood out to me as a 23-year-old was that I had low T. And sure enough, a lot of the symptoms I was experiencing weren't actually from the injury, they were from the hormonal imbalance. So from there, I sort of just set out on a mission to optimize my testosterone production. And along the way, some of these other nutritional imbalances and deficiencies kind of worked themselves out, right? So it was like, all right, I'm going to seek to optimize my hormonal balance. And in doing so, the rest of the system is going to get better along the way, which was great. But I started learning more about, why did I have low T? What were the reasons that as a 23-year-old guy, very active, eating relatively healthy, my testosterone was similar to that of a 75-year-old man, right? It was like mid threes. And I just kind of became a student of the game there. And I started researching. And I just found out that, in our everyday lives, we're constantly being bombarded by endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? Everywhere you look, there is some form of endocrine disrupting chemical in some sort of item that we're either consuming or ingesting or inhaling or being exposed to via skin contact, whatever it is. There's just the list kind of goes on. And then from there, I just started making what I thought was common sense decisions about swapping things out, right? So deodorants. Okay, let's get non-toxic, better for body deodorants. Soaps, shampoos, around the house things like aerosols, like those out the door. Anything that had fragrance in it. And it just like kind of kept going and going and going. And then I started learning about textiles. Specifically, I was looking at underwear because I was in the sauna one day and I was just looking down and I was like, okay, what are these made out of? These compression shorts that I'm wearing to the gym for 90 minutes a day for the last, I don't even know how many years. And I'm going into the 200-degree sauna for half an hour. I'm like, So I was just looking it up and it was like, sure enough, polyester is a petrochemical derived fabric that pretty much gets turned into plastic and then turned into fabric. So you're just pretty much what we say is like nuking your boys. But when you go in the sauna with polyester, like might be a little dramatic, but at the end of the day, like it's a big concern. You're putting something that's very BPA and PVC laden directly onto the skin of your most sensitive parts, the part of your body that directly produces testosterone, and you're absorbing those chemicals potentially right into your balls. So at that point, I was like, okay, as a consumer, I'm going to switch because I'm already using organic cotton bedding. I don't know how I've overlooked my clothing. And I just was, hit the internet. I was like, okay, what is the best fabric for wearing around day to day, right? And there was things like hemp, linen, wool, and sure enough, my personal favorite, organic cotton. And so I found a company that had some organic cotton underwear and I wore it. And after about like 3 weeks of training in it, it just kind of fell apart. And I was like, that's interesting. And they didn't have boxer briefs that were actually conducive to, a thinner waist, bigger quads, and a bigger butt, the athletic build. So I figured after about 2 or 3 weeks of researching and doing a bunch of digging online that there would be a company that would find me on social media and I would just click on an ad and buy. And I'm like, the legwork's been done for me at that point, but there wasn't. And that's when I realized that there was a hole in the market and that this wasn't really being talked about enough from the lens of health. There's a lot of companies doing it for the lens of sustainability, which is great. And we're very pro earth. But at the end of the day, there wasn't enough people talking about it through the lens of how does this actually impact my body? So I called my buddy Steve, who I grew up with, and was like, hey, man, I got an idea for this company. It's an organic underwear company for men. Not sure what we're going to call it yet, but it's an interesting idea. And I think it's an underserved market. Like, do you have any interest in partnering up on this? And a little bit of time went by and eventually we ended up deciding like we were going to just make the leap and go for it. We didn't have experience in e-commerce. We didn't have experience in fashion and clothing manufacturing. But we just kind of figured it out as we went. And this was in September of 2022 when we launched. And we're a little over 2 years into it. And we've just kind of been building and scaling and trying to bring, the best product to consumers that we can and trying to educate people about the issue as well along the way. That's kind of the crash course.
That was awesome.
Thanks, man.
What are what were some other things that helped improve your testosterone? Because that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It sounds
Yeah.
like
It's
you
my
were
favorite part.
using. It sounds like you were using the sauna. And all my experience, maybe because I've lived in the woods, has been home units. And I started with the used tent style, and then going to
Hmm.
the wood style. But it sounds like you were using public ones if you're clothed, right? You generally, if you're at home, you don't need to worry about that. But was sweating in a sauna frequently like a major part of your healing, or?
So I would say that it was less intentional, but it was a part of it. I've been steadily optimizing my T level since then, and sauna has definitely been a major piece of it. I would say up until the last like 3 months, I moved and I'm a little further from the gym. So the sauna is unfortunately taking a little bit of a back seat right now, but that's hopefully going to be fixed in about 3 weeks. Uh, I was hitting the sauna for 15 to 25 minutes, 4 to 5 days a week. And like that detoxing effect, I definitely feel different not doing it regularly right now, which is kind of interesting because it just shined light on how important it was and how much I love it and need it. I miss it so bad, but I'm coming back to it. But sauna was a huge piece of it for sure. I think the detox effect of saunas is very, very legit. And I think that the benefits of it are outstanding. And I've always said, even if you're not someone who's into avid training, like if you can just go hit the sauna for 3 days a week, you're going to see crazy benefits. One, both cardiovascularly, but also from a detox perspective, right? And your skin's going to be better. You're just going to have overall improved circulation. And it's really good. It's like hormesis, right? You get your body temp up, then it comes back down to normal. You go into cold plunge, you get it lower, then it comes back up to normal. And it's just like those things have benefits to the body. So cold plunge was a part of it too, not as much. I'm sort of one of my most controversial takes is I actually don't think cold plunges are really good for us. I think they're
Yeah,
good for us cognitively and
I've been
getting
in
over
that for
that
a
mental
while.
wall of getting into the water. But when I was cold plunging, 4 times a week, 3 minutes at a time, um, my training suffered, my recovery suffered, and I just like, I don't know, it became more of a stressor than it was a benefactor, right? Like it was less beneficial to me at that point, but I kept tightening up in my mid back, so I stopped doing it. But I tested it. I tested it before workouts. I tested it without even being connected to a workout. So this is only me being like, hey, I guinea pigged on myself. For me, I don't think it's worth it. Every once, like I'll start my showers in the morning with as cold as it gets, and I'll wait till it heats up. It takes about 45 seconds. And like I gotta bring myself to get in there. And some mornings I'm like, I gotta hype myself up to get in there, right? Other mornings I'm like, let's go, I'm in right away. But that's just like the mental battle. I think that really is the big benefit to cold plunging. And then in Florida in the summer, when it's super hot out during the summer, I love getting in there because it's just really refreshing. Um, but other things that helped me to optimize testosterone along the way, I swapped out the first place I started was my diet and my nutrition, right? So I was eating things that were healthy that actually weren't, right? So like healthy breads, healthy snack bars, healthy protein pancake mixes, protein supplements, all sorts of supplements, right? Long story short, I went from eating a lot of these processed things, although they weren't highly ultra processed, loaded with like total garbage. They just weren't optimal for human production, at least for me, right? For trying to be an optimal guy. So I kind of just went into a whole foods paleo style diet. I experimented with, carnivore, animal based. And where I ended up landing was just I eat foods that come from the earth. It's grass-fed beef, pastured poultry, wild-caught fish, pastured eggs, raw dairy when I can. I eat a pretty good amount of organic fruit, organic produce, and then I still sprinkle in some grains from time to time, and that works for me. So like that would be the starting point is trying to figure out something that's very whole foods based that you can kind of make work. Um, and then sleep. Sleep played such a big role in this for me. Once I dialed in my sleep, or at least got close to dialing in my sleep, everything started to click, right? Like mentally, sleep has had the biggest impact on clarity and on production and energy levels. And I used to work in a job where, I'd be at the office, 25-minute commute to get up there, and I'd have to be there between like, I don't know, 7:45 and 8:30, somewhere in that window. And I would probably not go to bed at the right time. I would probably watch too much TV and Netflix before bed, all this stuff. I didn't realize the impact it was having on me. It was just like it's a very suboptimal life. Now I get to bed on time. I wear my blue light blockers before bed. I'm trying to be asleep by 10:15, and I'm trying to spring out of bed between 6:45 and 7:15. And I'm trying to get my eyes on the horizon right on my patio the moment I wake up. That's had a crazy lift for me. So sleep cannot be overlooked. It's super, super important. I was just talking to my buddy Jake, who owns a company called Dream Recovery, and we were talking about like the sleep routine and how there's always so many morning routines, right? It's just like you wake up, you do this, you do that, you have your coffee, you do this, and then you get into breath work, and then you're going to cold plunge, and you're going to do this and that. But most people are like, yeah, I just, hit my book and then I end up going to sleep, or I watch a little TV, then I go to bed. It's like, well, I think what's going to probably happen is in the next like 3 to 5 years, we're probably going to see this rise of sleep routines to really optimize sleep, because the benefit of sleep is just really starting to come out. You have guys like Huberman really harping on it now, which is awesome because he's educating the masses and it's super, super important. But sleep is vital to testosterone production. The more sleep you get, in my opinion, the higher T you're going to have, the better quality sleep, the higher T you're going to get to. And then
Did
lifestyle
you
and
get did you get
stress.
into grounding sheets? Just to pause there for a minute. Did you get
No,
into
I did not.
earthing?
I
Okay.
I don't know where I stand on those. I haven't done enough research myself to form a really concrete opinion there. I have just I have an organic mattress, and then I have a set of organic cotton, certified organic cotton sheets, and then a certified organic cotton duvet and duvet cover, pillowcases and all that jazz. But I am curious as to your opinion on the grounding sheets. Are you using them?
I'm biased because I sell them, but I've been
Mm.
grounding since 2010. So it's just cotton and silver threads, and I use a special detergent to really remove the oils. Um, but yeah, rod to earth is the best. But I don't think it's for everybody. If you're in a high rise apartment, Miami or something, and there's a lot of Wi-Fi signals around you,
Yeah.
then you probably want to go more for like a Magnetico sleep pad or a Faraday cage situation or something like that. But if
What
you're,
the ones you have are the ones that you plug into the bottom piece of the electrical outlet. Yeah.
yeah, and that's one way to do it, which is I've experienced benefit from that, but there's also like a 40-foot option, a 40-foot cord with a rod that you pound into the earth, and that's a direct connection. So there's a lot less issues with stray voltage doing it that way. And actually, one of my first apartments, I knocked on the neighbor's door and he thought I was probably high. And I asked him to go in the backyard and pound a rod into the earth because I wanted to be grounded. That was probably 12 years ago or something.
So you travel, you go to a hotel room, right?
I don't
One, are
worry
you
about it
bringing?
at that point.
All right, but do
No,
you notice the difference?
I absolutely do. Yeah,
Really?
absolutely do.
So
Yeah.
I just started looking into grounding sheets relatively recently, so this is fascinating.
It's huge. Yeah. If you're a single person, I like the Mercola, like Silver Shield tent. A local friend, Brian Hoyer, EMF shielding guy, he helped Mercola design that silver tent. And you ground that tent, and it's just you're completely protected if it, and I've traveled with that, and that's really effective. But yeah, it's like a charge. I mean, it's like I said, it's not for everybody, but it's something to experiment with to
Yeah.
see if it works for you.
No, that's good intel. I've been looking
Uh,
into it more, and I've had some people ask me about it, and it's just been one of those things where I haven't dove into that rabbit hole just yet.
yeah. Clint
I'm going to
Ober.
now.
Yeah, Clint Ober was the OG, but for some reason their products, I don't like the quality. It's like a weird sticky black carbon material. I just prefer the cotton and
Yeah,
silver
yeah, I hear you.
threads. But
Interesting.
yeah, I recommend it. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
curious. I've tried so many things for sleep, so I share your passion there.
So what else?
Humidifiers,
What
air
else have
filter.
you tried? Yeah. So like, what is your sleep like? Like, tell me about the setup you have going on.
Well, I've mostly so dark, quiet. Same thing. I use a peat moss comforter. I interviewed a guy that sells peat moss comforters, which were fascinating. I'm too lazy for a duvet cover, so I just bring it out on my deck and shake it out
Yeah,
every
yeah,
couple
yeah. The
days.
duvet cover is a nightmare.
Yeah, they're a pain to put on and off. Yeah, and just I think I use linen, 100% linen, and grounding sheet, rod to earth, and I've experimented with a lot of like pre-bed protocols uh, and sensory deprivation tank. I've been fortunate to have my own at home over the years. And I found if I do that right before bed, it's like a power nap. And so I don't sleep as well if I do a
Yeah, yeah,
sensory
yeah, yeah.
deprivation float right before bed. So I've learned to do that
How
either
many
early
pounds of
evening.
Epsom salt you put in there?
It's 1,200. So that's 1,200 pounds of magnesium salt, and you can use salt, chloride. So I'm a big fan of both. I think they
Yeah.
both have benefits, and generally the chloride I'll put 16 pounds in my magnetic bathtub that I have. I have a lodestone bathtub, and so I'll kind of alternate the types there. But uh, yeah, supplementation I think is huge. I'm a huge fan of melatonin supplementation, so I take 200 milligrams every night for cancer prevention, mitochondrial support. And
I'm
I've noticed
surprised. I'm surprised that you take melatonin.
yeah, I interviewed Russell Ryder. He's done a lot of great work with Doris Lowe, and he wrote a book decades ago on melatonin, talking about its uh, cancer prevention effects and also cancer treatment effects potentially. Um, and it's kind of like an EMF protector for the mitochondria. Yeah, I know it's a controversial topic because I came from the quantum world, and you mentioned sunrise, sunset, cold plunging, sunlight. This is, the quantum kind of lifestyle. And I've just kind of come to a balanced perspective where all that stuff's awesome, but also using strategic supplementation. And 95% of melatonin is not made in the pineal, it's made in the mitochondria. And so you're wearing blue blockers and you're protecting the pineal 5% production, but what about the 95% throughout the rest of your
Interesting.
body? And it
So blue
doesn't
light
down.
blockers are out for you?
I generally don't wear them unless I'm traveling.
Yeah.
But yeah, at night I do the trick where you can turn your screen red potentially. And
Oh
there's,
yeah, I've got it.
the blue light diet. I think there's a blog on that.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
not too worried about it. I mean, I feel like mostly when I travel, if I'm at a conference or something like that, are you pretty strict with wearing blue blockers after? I mean, all my lights in my house are the amber, so they're
Yeah.
color changing. And
So I have like my nighttime lights are like that. I either have like very soft yellow lights or I have the red lights in my bedroom. And then like the last light that I have on at night is my little book clip. It's like an Uga red light, right? And like it illuminates the room. Like it's pretty sick.
yeah,
But up until that, like I would say last month, I've become pretty strict about trying to wear them past like 6:30 p.m. because it's starting to get dark here earlier. Daylight savings is the worst thing ever and just made it very dark. And I've been trying to wear them and like I think it's been helping. But to be honest with you, I haven't really ever had a crazy hard time with sleep. I can fall asleep pretty quickly, but
same here. Yeah,
and I wake up usually around 3 o'clock to go to the bathroom. Like even if I don't drink water
yeah,
before bed, like,
yeah.
and I've
I'm the
done
same
that
way.
since I was 12 years old.
You might want to,
But
yeah, I do the same thing, but you might want to check out nettle root tincture. I've been playing with that, and there might be a prostate connection there. And I'm always
interesting.
like on the alert for prostate cancer, just
Yeah.
concerned, just because supposedly every man gets it at some point. But yeah, nettle, it's cheap. I mean, I used to tincture it myself, but that I've noticed sometimes reduces my nightly urinations if I'm like really
Hmm.
consistent with the nettle root.
Yeah, that's interesting. What I've found is that when I take anything before bed, I can fall asleep, but I'm going to be up within the first 2 hours. So like everyone's like, yeah, magnesium, magnesium, magnesium. For me, I can't do it. I can't take magnesium before bed. I've tried every type, on topical and ingested and whatever it is. And for some reason, magnesium just, I wake up and I'm like restless and like feeling uncomfortable and magnesium, I don't know. But I've tried like valerian root and I have the same experience. Melatonin back in the day, and I would just be way too into a deep sleep and it would be impossible for me to get out of bed in the morning. Way too groggy. And I'm a zombie. So lately my biggest thing has been like, all right, I'm not consuming anything other than water before bed. Like last night I had some herbal tea and was like, let's experiment with this. And it was fine, but I think for me, the most optimal is just like, let me just essentially just go plain straight up into bed. Right. But I'm interested in, what did you say it was called? Nettle leaf?
Nettle root.
Nettle
Yeah.
root.
So I think the
Nettle root.
leaves generally for women, I mean, the roots, they're both beneficial for both genders, but yeah, the nettle root. And it's, like stinging nettle. I don't know if you've ever,
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that
SoCal,
before.
there's a lot of it. I used to pick it with like gloves in the mountains, but it's just easier to buy it. And
Yeah.
there's a bunch of brands, but
Cool.
yeah,
I'll
it's
have to check
interesting.
that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I don't
fun
even
to
remember
experiment with.
how we tailored into this one.
I did.
Testosterone talk into sleep. Yep.
Yeah. I'd imagine you tried THC or CBD too, and experimented with those before bed and how
Yeah,
those. Mhm.
I'm not much of a THC consumer. I have tried CBD, and for me, it's net neutral.
Mhm.
I would say I think there are benefits to like a medical grade CBD for sure. I do think they help, especially with just like stress reduction, anxiety reduction, clearing the mind a little bit. I'm a firm believer that like a nice, strong, legit one will work, right? But I
Yeah.
don't think that everyone is created equally for sure. Like the ones you get at the convenience store are gonna be a little different.
Yeah.
Um, so my functional medicine practitioner recommended one, and I've been using it time to time. I've never tried like using it before sleep consistently for an extended period of time because realistically, I
Yeah.
don't think I've had enough of an issue sleeping where I'm concerned enough about it. Uh, but I do take it from time to time if I'm feeling definitely like overstimulated and higher anxiety level and just general life stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to work at a dispensary in San Diego area. Yeah, my
Yeah,
coworker is just constant THC dabs, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between. I'm just like, how are these people operating? And then getting into studying health. I think
crazy.
I think whether it's psychedelics or anything altering it, I love cigars, but anything like that will deplete you of nutrients and increase your magnesium burn or zinc or and I think that's the main issue with these things. And if people aren't supplementing those things, then they're just burning
Right.
through their reserves and it's not going to
Yeah,
end
and then
well.
you end up very deficient in some pretty key things, right? Some key components. So with
Yeah.
you said you like cigars. What is your take on the people who would say, well, you're still smoking something, right?
So yeah, so I'm a huge fan of vitamin C and vitamin E. And if you look up on PubMed, smokers, vitamin C and E, and I'm talking about mostly ascorbic acid, which is synonymous with vitamin C, and alpha tocopherol is the primary isomer used in research, but I like mixed tocopherol, vitamin E, and both of those work together. Like vitamin C will regenerate vitamin E once the vitamin E donates an electron, and smoking is oxidative stress, right? Smoking
Yep.
anything. So, and even cheek smoking, what I do, and I generally smoke a cigar every day. So I use like xylitol gum to neutralize the acids, clean water, swishing the mouth, just working on the dental. But internally, I think the vitamin C and E are very overlooked. And even for
Was that a Lark bottle?
it is, yeah, good
Yeah.
eye.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Details. I'm always
Yeah.
seeing the little things. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And there's like glycolics supplement I take that has like green seaweed extract, which protects the arteries from the smoke damage. But I think the benefits of not only nicotine, but all the other compounds, the terpenes in tobacco are highly overlooked. Like just pure, I'm not talking about cigarettes with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
4,000 plus chemicals, but like clean.
But tobacco itself. Yep.
Yeah, I've actually grown it. It's pretty easy to grow tobacco too, but yeah, nicotine's amazing for the cells. I'm sure you've looked into it, and I think it's kind of trending too. I think, like you mentioned, Huberman, he's talked about it, and it's
Yeah, he
yeah,
talked about it. I literally saw him last week at Eudaimonia in West Palm, which is a new like health summit, and he talked about nicotine. And he was just pretty much he would probably phrase it the same way that I think my opinion on it is, which is everything in moderation, right? It's very easy to overdo that. Most people do, and it's just like a cool thing to have a Zyn tin around. Uh, and it's like, okay, yeah, well, it's a nootropic, yeah, but are you using it as a nootropic? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have the little Lucy lozenges, and I've tried them during podcasts,
Oh,
but
nice.
I've just noticed cigars actually make me feel better than isolated nicotine. It must just be the other stuff in it. I don't feel as like wired
So, like, what
on
kind of
cigar.
cigars will you smoke?
So I order, it's a great website, no non-affiliate, cigarbids.com. There's smallbatchcigar.com. There are a couple good websites. And I have a humidor back here. It's probably has 300 cigars in it.
Nice.
And so I'll just alternate
Nice. So you're
uh,
trying different things.
different ones. Yeah, I think the Wise Man is my current favorite, the Wise Man's cigars. But
Nice.
yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm building a new property and I just walk around with my new brew and cigar and we just talk about planning and stuff. And it's kind of just like a meditation, it's man time. It's great over a conversation
Yeah, I
with
love
your
it. I
boys
love
to
it. That's
talk.
awesome. Good stogie. It's been a while for me, but I remember thoroughly enjoying them way back in the day. Maybe it's time I give it another go. now that we've had this conversation.
Yeah, and there is
Um,
like kind of linking it back to this show. There's a testosterone connection, right, with
yeah.
tobacco and nicotine, where it is an aromatase inhibitor, and aromatization is where we degrade our testosterone, and nicotine, tobacco literally protects against that one aspect of testosterone, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. And I
So,
think that's something that's often overlooked, right? There's a lot of, we have a tendency to kind of just always look at the negative of things, right? And I think that's important, but at the same time, there are benefits to certain things. And like case in point, the nicotine thing, right? It
mhm.
protects the dopamine receptors in the brain too, right?
Yeah.
So like there's a benefit to it. But if you're obviously eating a whole thing of knickknack mints every day, it's like, okay, you're probably overdoing it. I don't know if you're doing yourself more harm than good there. Um, but yeah, back to the testosterone thing. So the sleep was super important. And then supplementation. So vitamin D levels were low originally. Obviously, I live in South Florida, so I'm able to get out and get sun. So I deliberately try and get raw sun exposure daily, at least 15 to an hour. Some days I'm out there for 6 hours, right? Like if I can go lay on the beach for a full day on a Saturday, if I'm like, okay, I can go unplug for that long and I'm going to do it, and the sun's like really out there and it's hot, I'll deliberately say, oh, I'm going to go out and get cooked today. Like I'm going to go out and just absolutely fry myself, and I'll come back feeling like a new man, and it is awesome, right? So that raw, unfiltered sunlight exposure. I don't wear sunscreen.
I'm curious, what are your genetic lineage? Like, what's your
Yeah. So
racial?
Scottish, Irish, and Italian, and English in there, but my physical makeup, I think I have more of the Southern Italian
Makes
genes.
sense.
Yeah, because my sister or my cousin, they have more of the Irish, and they're fair skinned and freckles, and they burn fast, and I can go out and lay in the sun for a long time, and I'll get red, but it will turn within like 24 hours usually. Uh, and I'm not big into the sunscreen. Like I'll put some every once in a while, I'll put some beef tallow and zinc on my nose. And then I'll heal up with either beef tallow balm or coconut oil just right on the skin. And that's the way I roll with it. But for a while, I was supplementing with vitamin D. I think I still do supplement with vitamin D, and I think it's important because it's very hard to get enough. Magnesium supplementation, I just don't do it before bed. And then I was taking zinc for a while, and then my zinc levels normalized. So then I just discontinued taking it orally. And then I've been testing since then, and they've been fine. Uh, and then I take Shilajit as well. So I was taking a supplement called Marsmen for a while, which is great. And that's kind of a full blend of a bunch of different ingredients that are very pro testosterone. And they're an awesome brand, and they're crushing it right now. And then I've tried some other just straight Shilajit company products as well.
I sell
And
it. Yep.
yeah,
I've been on that for 14 years. I
oh
bathed in
nice,
it.
way
It's
before the
it's
wave.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, amazing. So you know way more about it than I do.
Oh,
Um,
maybe I don't know. Yeah, it's
what are your thoughts right now about like this whole rise of Shilajit, this movement that's happening in the last 18 months?
I think it's great. I think as long as people are looking for third-party lab analysis, mine goes as far as to show like the zinc levels, like all the trace mineral levels instead of
Yeah.
just the metals. Yeah, but I love the tablet form. So compressed resin tablets, it's just easier to
Yep.
do. And I pop 5 a day, so it's 1,000 milligrams, 1 gram. And yeah, as long as you're consistent, take enough. All the research I've seen, it's usually the sweet spot is around the 500 milligram. And in the context of testosterone, like raising free and total, it was 3 months of, I think it was 500 milligrams a day, increased free and total testosterone. I think respectively it was like 23 and 29% or something.
Wow.
So yeah, it's super powerful, and yeah, that's great for actually organic uh, pollutants. So combining Shilajit with the sauna consistently is great for detoxing. Like on the website, all this perfluorochemical PFCs and the pesticides and formaldehyde. Shilajit actually hits a lot of that stuff, which is incredible.
Yeah, I love how we're continuing to kind of, it's not like this is new science, but I love how
Yep.
it's just, it takes a little bit of a kick for it to kind of come back into the focus, right? Which is cool because
Yeah.
it allows for opportunities for entrepreneurs, right? To come in and have an impact and to make a brand that is for purpose and hopefully doing good things by people, right? And that's one of the things I'm most pumped about is just like the entrepreneurial side of things and the opportunities that are there, right? Like you can take anything and try and make it healthier. And like you might have a brand within 2 years, right? Underwear, for example, clean drinking water, right? Someone needs to make a glass bottle right now. Like right now, I have. Is it in here? I'm drinking out of a Mountain Valley right now, but I have a 5 gallon Mountain Valley subscription glass jug that comes in, and then I fill up this half-gallon jug. It was a hydro jug, and it was glass with the rubber container in case
Yeah.
you drop it. I have broken them, and they discontinued it because I think a lot of people were breaking them. But like right there is an opportunity. Like people want to drink out of glass. Some people don't want to drink out of stainless steel. Uh,
Yeah, I put it I put it in the chat here for you. There is a brand Purist. I'm not an affiliate, but it's the outside is metal. You could bounce it on the ground, but the inside is coated in glass. So that's one that's
when
rugged.
did when did these guys come to market? I wrote this in the journal, this exact business idea, like I don't know, 24 months ago. It's in my book. I went with
I,
underwear, but
okay, I found these guys like 4 or 5 years ago, so they've been
wow,
around maybe a little longer, but
nice.
yeah,
That's awesome. I know
it's,
I know what I'm getting myself for Christmas.
well, the one upgrade they could do, like you mentioned, this one is put in the UV, USB charged UV
Yep.
sterilization because in glass, even it could get, I'm very, very
Yeah.
big into cleanliness and it can get gross if water's, if you're
Yeah,
reusing the
100%.
same bottle.
Exactly, right? If you can
But
find a way to have like a portable one of those or something like that to where you can just
yeah,
use it within anything, right? Like even if I
yeah,
had one, just
yeah,
drop it in here. But yeah, so supplementation super important. I think you just like don't want to blindly supplement. I would say obviously you want to try and get your entire scope of what you need and strategically try and fill nutrient gaps. I'm a big proponent of getting everything you need from food. I think for the most part we can. I think there are a couple things where, soil depletions happened and it's hard to get certain things, magnesium and zinc probably specifically. You can't eat a million oysters to get enough zinc, right? But other than that, stress reduction techniques, like my cortisol has always been high, and obviously starting a company and being a founder CEO of a high growth ecom business is not the most stress free job, but I'm getting better about it. Right. The first 18 months during build phase was I would do my blood work and my doc would be like, your cortisol is pretty high. Like this is the highest it's been. I was like, doc, let's not talk about it right now. I was like, let me come back again in 4 months when I retest. We'll look at it then. I'm in it right now. I was like, I'm gonna need a little bit of time here. So then I started to prioritize that a little bit more. And luckily I've established a little bit more of a work-life balance in the last 6 months, which has been cool. But stress reduction, cortisol kills testosterone, meditation kills cortisol, meditation that is a testosterone booster. So I'm not very great at meditating. What I do is my version of it, which is essentially kind of like Huberman's yoga nidra, non-sleep, NSDR, deep rest, right? And I'll just sit in a chair, something like this, and I'll just drop in. And I'll literally just let my chin come to my chest and I'll just pretty much go into stillness. And I don't try and bring my thoughts back to center. I don't focus on my breath. I just totally let my thoughts go with no guardrails. And I just let my body be still. And then once my body is still enough, I'm tricking my brain into thinking I'm sort of sleeping and I'm getting that restful state. So it's wakeful rest. And I'll come out of those and they could be anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour. And I am just like, oh, I'm ready to go. But I can't do it before bed anymore because then I
yeah.
will not go to sleep. Same thing with you and the float tank, right?
That's awesome.
Um,
Yeah, I do probably high tech versions of that where I use different devices. And
yeah.
been into the Rasha, so it's like headphones and frequencies with a scalar energy generator next to me.
Yeah, I
That's
love it.
really yeah.
But I think that's important, right? Trying to deliberately go stimulation free for extended
Definitely.
periods of time when we're inundated with stimulation. And I'm very guilty of it, right? I'll go to Shopify, I'll go to my email, I'll go to my personal email, I'll pop on an Instagram, I'll check the business Instagram, I'll check on the many Slack chats we have. I'll stop and I'll eat lunch and I'll be like, you know what? I should just pop something on the TV while I'm eating lunch. Now it's like, okay, slow down, unplug, eat lunch on the patio, just look out into the sky, focus on nothing. And like that sadly takes deliberate effort to do that, right? So
Yeah.
easy to
Yeah. Lately, I've
default.
been loving. Do you ever do silent drives? Like just don't play music or podcasts when you're driving?
Yeah, and I've been enjoying that more because I'm not fully silent. Like mentally I'm still on, like driving.
Yeah.
Um but like sitting here in silence, like the first 5 minutes of it, it's like, okay, I got to force myself in here. I've been doing the silent drives and then I did a 3 hour flight up to Connecticut with nothing.
Raw dogged it. Yeah.
I raw dogged the flight. I tried it right around when the time it was popping up on Instagram. I saw one thing and I was like, you know what? I didn't even realize it. I'm 30 minutes into this flight. I haven't even looked at my phone. I'm not listening to music. I'm not even going to open my book. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to just see how it is. And I did that thinkitate thing and I came in and out. That's what I call it, thinkitating. I came in and out of it 4 or 5 times. And I'm not going to lie, that was the longest flight I've ever taken in my life. It felt like it at least. But it was good. But yeah, we're definitely inundated with stimulation. It's very hard to escape it. But I think carving out deliberate time to do that is pivotal now, right? Because then our bodies start to think that the silence and the space is foreign, and then we're uncomfortable in stillness.
Yeah.
So got to carve time out to make it happen.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. Yeah, kind of returning to NADS, but it's all important information. Before we hit record, I was showing you the Smart Wool, Mary Wool boxer briefs that I've been wearing for probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. And then recently I started wearing your product. But what I noticed with these, and when I received yours, I just kind of held them in my hand, felt them, noticed the differences. We were talking about this band, and what's cool about yours is that band that has to be a synthetic material, you told me, is actually covered in your product with cotton, which is really cool. So if that's the only upgrade moving from these to yours, I'm happy.
Yeah. No, that was one of those things where I'm not too familiar with that company and their products by any means. First off, we didn't go with merino wool because I have an allergy to wool. So it just didn't make sense for me as a consumer wanting the product for myself. So I just didn't even go down that road. And then having cotton clothing, I like the feel of cotton. So we just went with that. It wasn't anything against wool. Wool is still a great option for sure, right? And so is linen and so is hemp. We think certified organic cotton is the best, better than regular organic cotton because you can lean on the criteria of the certification bodies being GOTS and Oikotech. And the point you bring up was very valid, and it was something that we considered when we first launched, which was most of these companies, ourselves included, still use a little bit of synthetics in the garment, because what we found is that if you don't on a form-fitting garment like a boxer brief, no one's going to be able to wear them. So they're going to return most likely back to wearing 100% polyester, right? So in order to achieve that function, you need to have some sort of synthetic mix in there. So for us, we use 5% elastane in our boxer briefs, and we added a 100% certified organic cotton panel on the inside of the crotch. So your boys are making contact with that certified organic cotton. And then you still have the form-fitting element around your glutes and around your legs. And then on our waistband of those, the waistband is elastane as well. So it's synthetic, and that's sitting against your waist. It's not sitting against your precious cargo below the belt. That said, we also took it a step further when we launched, and we made our style called the Ball Natural Boxers. So our Ball Natural Boxers are 100% certified organic cotton. They're undyed, they're unbleached, and they have a fully enclosed waistband. So there's an elastane waistband on the inside, but it's wrapped in organic cotton. And then they have a tear out tag. So you tear out the tag, you wear them, skin contact, certified organic cotton. That's essentially our take at what we could do as like our cleanest, best, fully Tarzan style underwear that we can make without it being a leaf and a string, right? And I don't even know, like at this point, a leaf and a string probably covered in pesticides or something. But yeah, we did that with the Ball Naturals, and those are a quick fan favorite. And then our regular boxer line is also a 100% organic cotton fabric with a exposed waistband. And we just have options for people, right? At the end of the day, tech hasn't come far enough to be able to replace that elastane right now. And there's developments happening in the industry, which will be really interesting to watch over the next 3 to 5 years. But even on those developments, they're not fully replacing elastane. So we opt for a BPA PVC free elastane, and we use that right now. And then we'll see what happens in the next couple of years with developments. But as of right now, we're trying to put out, better for balls underwear that people still want to wear. If you want that super clean option, the Ball Natural fit is the best fit for you. And then if you want to just opt for, hey, this is a significantly better option than everything else on the market, then our boxer briefs, our trunks, our no-fly zones, and our standard boxers are also awesome. But you can't really go wrong.
That's also so elastane, because I went on the website, and I don't mean to keep blasting this company, but I think it's the healthier underwear that I've found over the years. they have 12, so it's 88% wool, 12% nylon. So nylon and elastane, is elastane more commonly used than
Yeah, very
nylon?
similar. They're right in the same
Okay.
bucket.
Okay.
It's kind of interchangeable and depends on manufacturing.
Okay.
Elastane, they're all derived from similar sources within, the petrochemical industry. There's ways to do it cleaner and more non-toxic. And then within the GOTS certification that we opt to have, if you have it 5% or less composition by total garment, then you're still considered a certified organic product. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so
Okay.
for us, when we started having the certification was sort of that gold standard. And let me tell you, it was significantly more challenging to get in touch with suppliers that could make happen what we wanted to make happen. But I think it's worth it 100%. And we've stood by that since we launched just to make sure that we can lean on the credibility and criteria put forth by GOTS and by Oikotex, because at the end of the day, the consumer trust is the most important thing. And if we're just saying, hey, it's organic cotton, well, there's always the chance for greenwashing.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to take those extra steps, right? So we went with 95.5 on those styles and then 100% on the other styles.
So do you say Oikotex?
Yeah,
Is that
Oikotex.
okay? So you have that and another certification. Is
Yeah,
that
so Oikotex is
or-
really specific to the input. So really, it's the dyeing process.
oh, okay.
So it's
Interesting.
ensuring that there's no toxic dyes or chemicals made or used in the input process of making the gear. And then GOTS is the entirety of the supply chain. So from cotton seed all the way to finished garment, and then pretty much literally until it ends up in your hand as the consumer, it's ensuring that the entire supply chain is compliant with their criteria. So it goes further than just the dyeing process. It goes into, hey, this cotton itself, the raw cotton when it's being farmed, isn't being sprayed with toxic fertilizers and toxic pesticides and herbicides, and then being inundated with toxic fertilizers in the soil and all of that.
That's really cool. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Before
they're
the
they're
show,
coming a long way too, for sure.
that's amazing. Yeah. Before the show, I was researching the nylon, just contamination, and it's crazy. Like chromium, aluminum, antimony, nanoparticles, 1,4-dioxane, bisphenols, halogenated products, PFAs, flame retardants. It's like it's a huge list of things that could be in that,
Yeah.
right?
It's crazy. It's like, yes, that is 100% accurate. And then you also got to think about the fact that that same list can probably be in like 50 other household items you have around. It never ends,
It's
man.
wild. Yeah, it is wild. Yeah, and when you were talking about your lab tests, like I've interviewed a lot of hair tissue mineral analysis people. So you cut your hair, you send it in, they burn
Yep.
it. I love that no needles are involved, and a lot of them talk about how metals like the ones I mentioned, chromium, aluminum, antimony, they'll actually antagonize whether it's zinc, magnesium, copper. They'll antagonize beneficial minerals, and so I think that's where these diseases are coming from. Is it's not only, like you said, it's not in the soil and farming practices, but you're getting hit with from every angle these metals, and the metals are taking up binding sites and displacing minerals that we need for enzymes to function in the tissues. And so,
Right.
yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that cancer is exploding, even healthy people. It's like it's a wild
That was
world.
when I first did that lab, one of the things we looked at. We don't do it every time I do my labs now, but I do it once a year, which is the heavy metal test.
Mhm.
And I was very high in mercury 4 months ago, like very high. And I
Did
just
you ever
sat
have
back.
fillings? Or
No, so
wow.
I sat back for a minute and I thought about it and I said, what fish are highest in mercury? And he was like, tuna fish and swordfish. And I was like, okay, I'm not eating any tuna fish or swordfish. So I went home. I was like, give me a little bit of time. Like I'll figure out what's going on and I'll figure out what the cause of this is. And if it's something where it's not diet related, then we have a bigger problem and we'll look at it. So I went home and I searched, fish highest in mercury. And sure enough, the third fish was tilefish. And I was eating probably 3 pounds of tilefish a week for like, I don't know, 3 months. So I called my doc. I was like, hey, I think it's tilefish. I've been eating a lot of it. It's at the fish market right next to my place. I eat it a lot, like a lot. And I'm going to cut it out for the next 3 months and then we'll retest. No, I think I said 12. I think it was like 8 weeks, 2 months. And so I went back 8 weeks later. I hadn't eaten any fish. I just totally killed it. And mercury was just right back to normal.
Wow.
Yeah. So fully dietary there. But yeah, the heavy metals test was definitely something where if you're contaminated with heavy metals, the cognitive issues that you'll experience, the brain fog, the chronic fatigue, the anxieties, the depression, all of that, bad news, right? That's one of those tests where if you're first getting into functional medicine and you're testing, like spend the extra money and get that done because you definitely want to get an idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aluminum's a big one that just seems like everyone's full of it. I use a spectrophotometry test at home and it shines light in and it's not a quantum thing. It's like a super scientific and it'll basically have a readout instantly of your metals and everything. And everyone I've scanned, high aluminum, every single
Yeah.
person.
Wow. And where are you on the aluminum chart right now?
I went from very high to high, so I'm making progress. But yeah, I'm on high dose zeolite. So I interviewed Jeff Hoyt twice. He was introduced to me by one of the HTMA guys, and he created a powdered zeolite product that's super cool. And he has a protocol of high dosing it. So I've been on 30 grams a day of zeolite, which is way more than what people usually take. Usually
Yeah.
that it's like nano or liquid, and they're like microdosing
Yep.
linoptilolite. But megadosing it, you have enough cages where if one lets go, another cage can grab it, so you don't get retoxified, basically. And I've been on that for, I don't know, whenever I interviewed him, 6 months or something, and I'm tracking my progress. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like
Yeah,
moving
I just
metals.
started learning more about that this week actually. Zeolite. I just was chatting with a gentleman who's in the space as well, and he was educating me on that. So that's definitely something that I'm just starting to kind of click into. There's always so much, right? The list just keeps
There
going on.
is. There is. Well, when I was raw vegan years ago, I was on the chlorella, train, and that's kind of like a weak binder. But yeah, my current metal protocol is, we talked like shilajit, melatonin is actually a heavy metal chelator, um, and the zeolite. So that's like my current, and then of course just sauna,
Yeah.
to get them
And do
out.
you
But
do like traditional heat sauna, or are you using an infrared?
since I've been off grid, I got it's actually a Washington company, Redwood Outdoors. They sell a barrel sauna that's wood burning, like a
Nice.
Harvia stove. So it takes
Yeah.
like 20, 30 minutes to get going, but it's a more intense sweat, I found, than definitely the carbon far infrared saunas that I've used
How's
over
the
the
air
years.
quality in there when you're doing that?
I usually keep the door cracked because if not, it feels like you're getting cooked alive. But so
Yeah.
I'll let some air come in.
Your
But
brick oven pizza or
yep.
a wood fired pizza.
But yeah, I interviewed the Sauna Space founder, so I have that here. The near incandescent. I like different ones, so I'll do wood fire, the incandescent. It's just the incandescent. You're using so much electricity that
Yeah.
you better be on grid for that one.
Yeah. 100%. Drain
um,
the battery.
yeah, yeah, but yes, yeah, sauna's amazing. I'm the same way. I've been so busy with my business and stuff that I haven't been on it as much as I should,
Well,
and
maybe
you
this will
feel
be
the
both of our
difference.
kicks to get back into it,
There you go. I
right? A
think
little bit of
so.
awareness to push back.
Yeah, yeah. I think switching out clothing, sauna, some of the other things we talked about, that's like a great start for people to start to balance their hormones and improve their health. I forgot to tell you, Dan, I do have a bunch of listener questions that people sent in on Instagram, and we
Yeah.
probably won't hit all of them. I wasn't expecting to get this many, probably like 50, but
Cool.
I'll pick some good ones.
Yeah. Let's do it. I'll answer to the best of my ability. I love it. One last thing I'll say before we move
Oh
off
yeah.
the topic of testosterone is this is also one of those things where I learned this the hard way of stressing crazy amounts about it and always trying to be perfect will do more harm than the benefits of nailing the things you're stressing about. Right. So sometimes you have to surrender to not being able to be perfect 24/7 because the reality is that it's damn near impossible to be perfect. So taking it easy and
Love
just
it.
shooting to have, 80 to 95% solid around the clock is probably the most realistic way to be. And then like let yourself be okay with the other times where you're not perfect. If you're traveling and you're going to be just spiking your cortisol because you're not adhering to that rigid routine, then that cortisol spike will probably be worse than, that exposure to the candle that you're worried about, or you're walking through a hallway and there's an aerosol plugged in. There is an aerosol plugged in outside of my apartment. They keep plugging in and I keep unplugging it, and I don't think they're going to see this, but I've been throwing it in the garbage. Yeah, and I'm like, no, no way, not on this floor. Absolutely not. Um, if you're watching this, it wasn't me. It's a different person on this floor.
Just refill it with like a trenbolone or something, or put something in it.
Yeah, exactly. They would have no idea. I would have to get like a hazmat suit, which ironically I have because we filmed a funny advertisement in a hazmat suit recently. But um, anyway, yeah. So long story short, for me, my personal mantra around the whole thing is do the best you can, as much as you can, and don't beat yourself up when it's not absolutely perfect. And that's kind of been something that I've tried to embody across all areas of my life.
That's an awesome tip. Yeah, that's great. Completely agree. I've been there.
Right.
um, this is a great question. Can these things be washed out of clothing? So on the post, I posted that part of your website where it's the list of things, the phthalates, PFAs,
Yep.
formaldehyde, and yeah, that's a good question. Can a lot of these things get washed out if you just keep washing the clothing over and over? Or are there only certain things, maybe like pesticides, that will eventually work their way out?
So here's the problematic area with that is what's in our water and what's in your detergent,
Mhm.
right? So can we even rely on the validity of some of those tests where they're doing this? So, like, do they have absolutely perfect non-toxic water that they're running this wash cycle with? Is anybody, using their Mountain Valley water, which also isn't perfect to
Yeah.
wash their underwear or their clothing? In short, there's been studies that have shown that these chemicals do not come out with typical wash cycles, right? So if your clothing's dyed with toxic azo dyes, for example, your gear still dyed after you wash it, right? So like that's something that's definitely not going to come out with a typical wash cycle. Will formaldehyde come out with a typical wash cycle? Potentially, most likely not. BPA, right? If you have something like BPA that's been used in plastic manufacturing as softened plastic, that's likely not coming out with the typical wash cycle, especially when you're talking about a 100% polyester garment that's quite literally plastic. It's embedded in there. So it gets embedded into the fabric. And what's actually been shown is that these chemicals that can linger in the fabric despite being washed can actually act as like reservoirs within the clothing to have like extended release in your skin. So you're essentially like embedding the chemical from the clothing into your skin, and then you're sweating, and then you're reactivating it into your body. It's crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of studies on this
Wow.
stuff, and like we've jumped into it. Not to fearmonger too hard, but I don't think these chemicals are coming out with conventional washes, especially given our water quality, especially given the stuff that's put into most fabric softeners and dryer sheets and detergents, right? So that's another point just to hammer home, which is make sure you try and get good quality, non-toxic detergents, because if you're buying certified organic gear or gear that's supposed to be better for body, but you're dousing it in chemicals in the wash, it's going to be problematic, and it's kind of counterintuitive to what you're doing.
Yep.
But there are studies that show that the chemicals do not come out with conventional wash cycles. I'm sure some of them probably lose um, the magnitude in which they're in there, the volume, right? But entirely, I would say no.
It's interesting that when you were talking about how the chemicals in the skin get reactivated, I think it was back in 2011. I was experimenting with gua sha. Have you heard of that? Where
Mm.
you did the spoon, and
Yeah,
I
that's what I
would
thought you meant. Yeah, yeah.
I would apply like a vodka solution and mix in baking soda, MSM, like charcoal, like make a crazy solution with 6 times distilled vodka, and then like go out in the sun. And ideally in the sauna, I would use like a bullhorn spoon and kind of scrape out this gunk. And at first I thought it was dirt, but then when I captured it on towel, super black. Sometimes there's different colors. And I think that's a great practice, but not trying to be perfect, going back to your point, but every once in a while, if you're in a sauna, I think it's a great practice. Just bring in a little hand towel. You could even use a credit card. It's not ideal,
Yeah,
but
like
sometimes,
manually scraping the toxins out.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love it. There's going to be some spots on my back I can't reach, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it worked. Is I mean, I definitely, especially in my neck, that was the grossest. I just had tons of stuff coming out. It was out of my
and
lymph
what do you
nodes.
think? Do you think that like some of that was sebum in your neck? Just,
Probably,
yeah.
probably, yeah. But I had standard childhood like all of us, so I'm sure I was, not to say my parents, down, talk down to them, but just the chemicals that were in all of our lives, probably the first 20 years of our life was
The
intense.
Lunchables and the
Yeah.
Dunkaroos and the fruit roll-ups, the Pop-Tarts, the Kellogg cereal. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I keep seeing Kellogg. I think it's trending now to talk about the Kellogg's, that was created to lower sexuality, right? Or
Yeah,
libido. Have you heard that?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think literally Special K
Yep.
was designed for that. And Wheaties was like meant to give you erectile dysfunction. I love seeing the Kellogg's the boycott stuff right now though. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
my one of my best friends was a part of that, and she's fighting the good fight to try and help fix the nutritional system, which is obviously very messed up. But yeah, anyway, all right. What else? What other
Yeah.
questions we got? I'm ready.
Workout clothing options. Cotton just doesn't work well with sweat.
Yeah. Unfortunately, cotton is not moisture wicking. So what makes a fabric moisture wicking is the inability for air and moisture to pass through it. So polyester, spandex, they essentially act as a wall. And then when the fabric doesn't allow moisture or air to pass through, it has nowhere to go but go down. So you're sweating downwards more and it's not going through, as opposed to cotton will pretty much just soak up the sweat and the air because it allows for airflow, which makes it one more antibacterial and antiviral, but it does definitely get heavier because it's absorbing the sweat. It's going to definitely not smell as bad because it's going to also come out in the wash more than a fully synthetic garment would. But the sad reality is that cotton, it's not going to be as high performance as the chemical laden synthetic garments that we've been kind of normalized to wear over the last couple of decades. So if we're comparing apples to apples from a performance perspective, it's a trade-off. If we're comparing apples to apples from a health perspective, it's a win. We did launch certified organic cotton shorts. So we brought those to market for a lot of the people who were like, well, I don't even wear underwear. And that was kind of the pushback we would get from some folks. And I was like, okay, but what are your shorts or jeans or your pants made out of, right? Like you're still exposing your stuff, your boys down there to whatever it is you are wearing. So we launched a pair of shorts. We called them the Commando shorts. And it's like, okay, these are certified organic cotton shorts, so you can safely go commando in them. For all those people who said they didn't wear underwear. And we have those on the store. They're a limited edition drop. They'll probably sell out within the next couple of weeks, but those are an option, and they're a midweight cotton, so you can wear them around the house and be casual, but you can also hit the gym in them. I've been religiously wearing them to the gym for the last year because I prototyped them way back when, and durability and quality of the organic cotton is strong. But again, if I'm really getting sweaty, then they're not ideal for that because you're going to literally just soak up all that moisture. Don't go in the ocean in them. You're going to be like 30 pounds heavier later. But sadly, there isn't a perfect option out there for workout gear. If I'm going to get really sweaty or if I'm going to go to the beach, I believe in honesty here, and I'm not going to lie about this. I wear NADS. I always wear our underwear no matter what. And then I will wear like a bamboo viscose bathing suit. And that's going to be more representative of a synthetic fabric that is a little bit more lightweight and not going to soak up the moisture. But I wouldn't wear bamboo viscose underwear on my parts because
Yeah.
the process of turning wood pulp into fabric is very chemically intensive and usually calls for some pretty intense bleaches. And then that presents the issue of, yes, it's a sustainable garment, but is it a better for body garment based on the chemical inputs? So that's why it's always like base layer matters most, wearing cotton tee. I got my nads on. I am wearing a pair of jeans. These are not organic jeans. That might be an opportunity in the market for somebody who wants to come in and take on the jean market. Um, but again, base layer, right? Can't be perfect. So I wear an organic cotton tee and I wear organic cotton underwear. And then if I'm wearing my NAD shorts, that's great. If I'm wearing pants, then at least I got my nads on underneath them.
Now, yeah, I didn't even think about because I always wear the smart wool base layer just through the
Yeah.
winter. It's like a stretchy, but now I have to look at
Well,
I think might
that's
be
the other thing,
viscose
merino. How do you like
merino.
wearing the merino clothing and working out?
I don't work out usually. I just work out shirtless, so
Yeah.
take my shirt off and I just work out at home. 'Cause the nearest gym's like 40 minutes away, and I just prefer working out alone.
So let me actually just
But
revisit my answer then real quick because I always overlook merino because I'm allergic to wool. So I'm not like I'm going to have a EpiPen response, but I'm going to have hives and get really scratchy, right? Really itchy. And people love the moisture wicking properties of merino wool for gear. So I would opt for that before you go for like obviously a fully synthetic gear or even for the bamboo viscose. If you can handle the merino, some people love it, some people don't. It's definitely a great option.
That's good to know. Yeah, I've noticed it like I don't even have a fire going and it sweating a little bit and it does hold on to sweat. So
Yeah.
that's not ideal.
Right.
But yeah, so you do you see merino as a good option as
I
a
do.
base
And most
layer?
of them will probably be blends,
Hmm.
majority of the time. But if you're going to wear, a 95% merino wool, 5% elastane garment over a 100% polyester Nike shirt, or a Lululemon shirt, right? Like something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a more health first option. Absolutely. And then certified
Yeah.
organic cotton, like shirts and stuff to the gym. If you're okay with a little bit of the heavier weight garment on your body, like that's what I always opt for personally.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome. This is a great question. School us on how we are greenwashed with clothes that sound good but are still toxic. Uh,
sure.
the certifications I thought were cool because the underwear I used to wear had the
Yeah.
how do you say it?
Oikotex.
But it didn't
Oikotex.
have the
Yeah.
other one that GOT has.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. So right now, I think it's very, very challenging to get the GOTS certification on merino wool. It doesn't
Okay.
exist for hemp because hemp is naturally organic. So it's essentially like we're not going to spend money on certifying hemp because it doesn't need to be. But it also then in the eyes of the consumer is like, oh, well, it's not certified. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. Hemp's a decent option for clothing as well. So where a lot of the greenwashing happens is in what we just talked about before, which is like the sustainable side of things. So how sustainable is clothing production? It depends. A lot of the times not very sustainable, but it's marketed as such because it's using materials that technically do come from the earth, right? So where we've seen it heavily has been in the use of um, wood-based fabrics, right? So viscose, bamboo viscose, a lot of viscose will use like beech tree as the main wood that then gets turned into pulp and then turned into fabric. But again, in that situation, the process of turning wood pulp into fabric is very chemically intensive and usually calls for some pretty intense bleaches. And then if you take the dyeing process into effect, if it's not an Oikotex certified dye, well, then you have a toxic dye involved as well. And then at that point, if they're doing that, even if you have a bamboo garment, is it toxic? Is it loaded with toxic dyes? If it is, then it's probably sprayed with formaldehyde to preserve the integrity of the garment and preserve rigidity, right? And then you have that carcinogen added into the mix. So there's a lot of greenwashing happening there. And while some of it may be slightly more sustainable than typically just running petrochemical derived fabrics through and through, it comes back in our lens, which is more so about health. Um, and that's obviously why we kind of lean on the certifications that we have, right? So we deal with got certified suppliers and Oikotex certified inputs. And right now, in our opinion, those are probably the top two to lean on for the certification bodies, right? Like GOTS has kind of been dubbed the gold standard of organic certifications. And what's cool is we're going to continue to see more coming out, right? More testing centers, more testing facilities, more certifying bodies. I think we'll see that not only across fabrics, but across like the nutritional space as well, which is going to be great. But a lot of the greenwashing, in my opinion, happens within that space of viscose and modal, right? And then cotton, and then just organic cotton, because even a lot of the organic cotton has been found to contain pesticides and herbicides that it's supposedly not supposed to have, right? Because they're in the
Oh,
soil at that point.
yeah.
So challenging. So
Interesting.
obviously always try and opt for organic when you can. Always try and opt for certified organic to take it a step further when you can make that decision.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. You did touch on this with the bathing suit, but does it matter if the fabric is further away from your skin, like a jacket versus underwear? One of my first jobs was a sports chalet. I think they shut down and went bankrupt, but it was like a sporting goods store. And I started in clothing before I moved to scuba department. And I remember the skiing and snowboarding jackets. I mean, there's are three, $400, $500 jackets, and they were like there's fluoride in them, right? There's like crazy stuff. I mean, the worst chemicals are in
Oh
these
yeah. Well, think
these
about when you would go skiing. It was like you're wearing a 100% polyester Under Armour base layer. And then you're putting on polyester or fleece sweatpants, and then you're putting on snow pants, which are loaded with all those toxins and chemicals. And you're doing the same thing up top. And then you're putting on a polyester ski mask, and then you're putting on foam lace goggles, and you're putting on like, wow, you might be safe and warm, but like, what's going on internally? And this was from
Chemical
somebody who
bath.
grew up skiing and snowboarding. So
Wow.
I'm still undoing a lot of that damage, I'm sure. But no, that's a great question. And again, to harp on what we kind of talk about a lot, which is base layer matters most. That direct dermal absorption layer is probably the most important. But at the same time, if you're wearing a raincoat that's been absolutely coated in PFAs to make it water resistant, then you also run the risk of inhalation on those, right? So not only do you have the risk of if you were to wear that raincoat with a t-shirt, then yeah, sure, you're going to expose your forearms and then probably your neck and then potentially your head if you're going to put the hood on, but also you're going to breathe in the chemicals that are on the outside of that garment. And then that's another way that these chemicals enter the bloodstream, which is directly through inhalation, which is often overlooked. Right? We think about aerosols and we think about candles and we think about fragrances and obviously we think about how we can inhale those. But if I'm sitting here and, if I'm laying, this is a perfect example, laying on a Tempur-Pedic bed. I had a Tempur-Pedic bed for a while and I obviously swapped it out once I started to learn. But sure, I wasn't as concerned about absorbing the chemicals through the skin because I had mattress protector, organic bedding, and all of that. But was the off gassing from that bed just being inhaled all night, every night while I was sleeping? Absolutely. Right. So that's one of those things where it definitely matters. I think base layer does matter the most from a skin contact perspective. And then if you're going to wear a coat, I would try and find brands that are making, water resistant clothing that aren't loaded with PFAs. And like there are companies that are out there making pushes to do that. I know REI has been trying to make an effort to do that as well. But yeah, I mean, it matters. It matters everywhere, but it's just to the degree in which it's going to get in your body is a little bit different. I don't think you're going to inhale as much from your pants as you would from a raincoat that's closer to your face, right? Or your shoes. But, just kind of ends up depending on how much you want to subject yourself to potential inhalation.
Yeah, it's great. One of the questions was about cost. And yeah, when you get into the healthy stuff versus the synthetic, it's crazy that the synthetic, like toxic stuff, I mean, you find it at the big stores, so Macy's, JCPenney, whatever, and then they're on sale, 50% off. Versus if you go online and you find healthier options, like I actually have a friend that I interviewed years ago, and he was in the Hurricane Helene in Florida, and he lost his facility, but he created like a beeswax pine resin parka that kind of mimics like Gore-Tex, like a rain jacket. It's $500, but if it lasts you for years,
yeah. Is he still selling that? Is that still happening?
Yeah, it's Lucky Sheep, and I'll put, yeah, I just sent it to you. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think we need more innovation like that.
That is exactly what we need more of. That's incredible.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to looking at that.
Yeah, it's organic canvas, and then it's treated with the beeswax, and
that would be great for furniture application too. Because when I moved apartments, I was going in on the non-toxic furniture route, and it's hard, really hard, especially to do it on a budget.
Yep.
But yeah, the price piece of it, at the end of the day, what ends up happening is it's significantly cheaper to use these chemicals in manufacturing because it obviously cuts costs, but it also cuts the labor cost down because it's easier to produce them. Therefore, you can get economies of scale faster because you can sell more because they're cheaper, but at what cost? So not only is it bad for the end user, it's bad for the people actually manufacturing the garments. They're exposing themselves to these chemicals daily. And a lot of times they don't realize that. And that's sad, right? And that plays into just like the ethical workforce concept. And the sad reality, I wouldn't even say sad reality. The reality is that manufacturing an organic garment takes more time and more labor than manufacturing a synthetic garment. Therefore, the cost is higher to make these things. And in order to be in business, these companies, ourselves included, have to sell them at a price that allows them to stay in business. Because in a competitive market, cost of acquisition is incredibly high. And most of these companies are social media based, and that's how they get their start. And you'll be out of business before, you can really even move around of inventory because you're going to be paying out the wazoo to acquire a customer. And most consumers don't even understand what that even means, which is fine. Um, Luckily for us, as we've scaled, we've been able to um, do things like add bundles into the mix to drive our costs down, right? So when we first started, we were selling singles. We were selling just a $32 pair of briefs, a $32 pair of boxers. And now we have a 1 pack, a 2 pack, a 4 pack, and an 8 pack. And we can drive some of those unit costs down by bundling. And hopefully, as we continue to scale the business and hit economies of scale, we'll be able to drive costs down in time. Um, but I'll tell you, it's hard to get competitive with the big brands, the big conventional underwear companies, because we're not manufacturing the same way. I always say it's just like more love goes into the manufacturing of these garments. Therefore, more time and it costs more money to do so. Therefore, we have to sell it at a higher price. Premium product, premium price at the end of the day.
I think your prices are reasonable. And yeah, I'd imagine over time the demand will go up because I imagine most of the US, most of the population isn't conscious and they don't really care about, what's in their
Right.
clothes.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd imagine over time, especially as disease rates just keep going up and up, people are going to
Yeah.
start
And
looking. Yeah.
I think if you really look at the entire underwear market, for example, and one, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it, Matt. But we're mid-market price point. But the people who shop at Walmart for their underwear and buy $8 gear and $12 underwear are obviously going to be outraged by a $32 pair of underwear. Where if you go to Dick's Sporting Goods and you buy a pair of Nike Pro Combats, you bet it's going to be $37.99 or $34.99 or $44.99. And that's just how it is. And that's 100% polyester, right? So we're offering a mid-market price point for the whole health aspect. And it also is designed by, Steve, my co-founder, and myself were athletic backgrounds. So we wanted to make athletic performance style gear. So like it can handle a tough workout. It can handle a cold plunge session. It can handle a 7 mile run. It can handle a sauna session, and it can handle it for weeks on end. Right. So you get that benefit as well. And if you really are comparing apples to apples, I've seen some underwear companies that have $75 underwear. I'm like, okay, all right. We're not them. We're okay. Right. But yeah, no, right in the mid-market price point when you really look at the entire underwear space. And then when you look at like the organic space, again, right in the mid-market price point as well.
Yeah, that's great. You touched on laundry, and I'm very fortunate to be on spring water, and I've been on spring and well for years. And so not having
Yep.
to deal with municipal, I feel like is half the battle, not
Yeah.
needing a whole house filter or something like
That's
that.
awesome.
There's a lot of stuff in the water, but yeah, then I'd imagine a lot of people, even by me in North Idaho, they're probably washing their stuff in well water, but then they're using Walmart detergent or something on
Right.
their clothing. So they're adding a whole bunch of toxins in. So one of the questions listener asked, which laundry soap is best, or what do you use, or what do you
Yeah.
look at?
So, I mean, there are a handful of brands and I'm still kind of bouncing around between which ones I like the most. Um, in a pinch, I use Dr. Bronner's soap, Castile soap. Um, Solid, reliable. You can pretty much use it for anything. It's like an 18 in one. And I just do a little squirt of the Castile soap into the wash and I just run it on everything. And then I've used Branch Basics before, which is an awesome option. And then there's another company which I haven't personally used, but I have seen and I think is really solid, which is called Molly's Suds. So I would say, in my opinion, those three are probably the best options. But I also think right now we're seeing a emergence of more of a couple of different brands in that space popping out, and I think we'll continue to, which is cool. But in my opinion, Dr. Bronner's and Branch Basics are really solid starting points, and then I think from the research, Molly Suds is also really solid. I just can't speak from personal experience on that last one.
Cool. Yeah, I have a buddy that sells a whole bunch of like TCM inspired tinctures and stuff, but he has like a home line, and he came out with one that's called Suds. It's pretty cool, and it's
Nice.
doesn't have any peroxides, alkali, phosphates, or enzymes. Um,
Amazing. Yeah.
so
And I've also heard
yeah.
of people that use just like baking soda and a little bit of vinegar,
Hmm.
and they just throw that right in there.
Yeah.
I haven't gone down that direction just yet, but I know that's always an option for people too.
I used to use an ozonator on the washer, and some of them market, they're 500 to $700, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And they market that you don't need detergent. That did not work. I tried it. I think it was 4 years ago. Maybe I just didn't have the right one, but it
Yeah.
ozonated the water that was going in. And
Yep.
obviously it doesn't work on hot because hot water can't hold ozone. But I might experiment with that again. I have a friend that's thinking about selling them that builds my water filters. So that would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think putting more attention on all this, I mean, how your clothes are washed, the chemicals going in, it definitely matters. So,
100%. Yeah. I mean, there's just
uh,
like a lot of nuance to everything. And there's just a lot of little steps that go into making the entire process kind of buttoned up. Right. So it's like, yeah, you got organic clothing. But what are you washing it with? What's in the water?
yeah, going back, yeah, don't try to, like you said, don't try to be perfect. 80-20 rule, whatever. Don't drive yourself crazy. But I'm 14 years in, and what I found is just, every month, every year, just get better and better. And
Yeah,
before you know it, you've made so many changes that,
exactly. Right.
yeah.
Just gradual incremental changes. And at some point, you'll just have it all kind of add up at once. Wait, Matt, how old are you?
I'm 37.
Awesome. Nice.
What about you?
So I'm 28. You started it at, you
Cool.
said 14 years in. So 23.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was, I had an Aikido sensei in high school, and he was a really eccentric guy. And he got me on documentaries, and he got me on Zeitgeist. And it was like, Federal Reserve stuff and monetary system, and it like questions religion, and just
Sure.
it's like the ultimate OG like conspiracy documentary.
Yeah.
Uh, and that just kind of blew my world up. And then for 5 years, I was researching why is the world messed up? What's really going on? And then that led me to human health like 5 years later, and found like green vegetable juicing and detox, and went deep down the, you know, enemas and colon cleansing and enzyme therapy and like the vegan, greens and just enzyme. Yeah.
Medical medium.
I didn't go there. Yeah, it was more like David Wolf, Gabriel Cousins, like, and then that led to like Daniel Vitalis, and he inspired me to include bison and meat, and then it was like, oh, got I've never felt this strong. My brain's never worked this good. And then
Yep.
then I added like raw goat milk and shilajit, and then and
Yep.
magnesium. I just went to another level, and yeah, it was a cool
So
journey.
you kind of had like a full elimination diet and then a reintroduction.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. I did a lot of like liquidarian too. I was on an extreme. I did fruitarian for a while. I was eating like 10 to 20 bananas a day. And then I went like to blue green algae elixirs. I would like brew that in the fridge and do mostly liquids with chia seeds, and yeah, wild experiments. And I'm like you, I'm back to balance. So,
Yeah.
the greenhouse where I have two avocados going
Yep.
up here in the north, and yeah, just salads and fruits and vegetables and meat, and it's like balance. Yeah, I never did the carnivore, I think there's something to like animal based, but
Yep.
yeah, you have to live your life and be balanced. I enjoy my French fries every once in a while. They're
Yeah. Right.
fried in peanut oil, but I take my vitamin E. I don't worry about it. So,
Exactly. I love it.
um, last question here, and this is kind of an esoteric one from a listener. It's kind of fun. I read an interesting article about the frequency of different materials. I don't know how legit it is. Have you seen those like little infographics of like linen and vibrates at this frequency? And
Yeah. And then there's like polyester vibrates at the frequency of a dead person, right? Yeah, I've seen these. Candidly, I haven't dove in too deep on them past like the surface level study reviews that I've seen, but there is some sort of merit to it. If you're looking at vibrational frequencies and energies, that it has been said that linen does have the highest, right? And organic cotton's up there. But the fully synthetic ones are definitely down there. Like not ideal. So if you're believing in that, and if you're going to lean into that, like yes, then the natural fabrics that are derived from sustainable materials, organic cotton, linen, wool, hemp, are definitely going to be in the higher end of the frequency spectrum.
love it. That's awesome. So, yeah, I think we covered a lot. Um, is it nadsunder.com? It's the
Yep.
website.
Yeah. So the social media
Cool.
is at NADSunder, and then the
Cool.
website is at nadsunder.com or www.nadsunder.com. And then I'm not sure when this is going to air, but we'll have our Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale starting on Friday. Um,
It's going out. It's going live Friday. So there you go. Yeah.
Perfect. Right. So if you're listening to this, then, and if it's before December 2nd, then our Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale is about to kick off, and this is the biggest sale we're going to run all year. It's 25% off site wide. So for all those people who are thinking we're not a mid-market price point, you can get a little discount for a limited time only. So until December 2nd or until supplies fly off the shelves, whatever comes first.
That's awesome. And was it the Commando short that's the limited edition product you have right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to order some of those. Probably won't wear them until next summer, but at least I'll have them.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting cold out. Oh, I'm in South Florida, and I'm always like, it's cold in other places of the world, other parts of the world.
Yeah, it's been hovering around. Outside is probably 40 degrees, and I think we're getting our second snow just for a day this weekend. So yeah, it'll be down in the 20s or something. But I love it.
Oh man,
I don't need an ice bath at that point. I just walk outside. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, it's like cryotherapy just right outside. I love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, yeah, this was really fun chatting with you, and
yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt. This was cool.
Yeah, this was fun. Stick around as we close out the show. Thanks so much. Common feedback that I get from the show is that people like hearing my thoughts and not just the guests. So it was cool that Dan interviewed me throughout the show and asked me my thoughts on things. I like that he talked about perfectionism and not striving to be perfect all the time. But with this subject of clothing quality and something that's touching our skin all the time. And so it's important to at least take inventory of the clothes that you wear. And if you are wearing synthetic clothes that, you know, there are compounds going through your pores, into your bloodstream, into your tissues, then at least have some type of protocol, whether it's zeolite and sauna, which is my personal protocol, plus Shilajit, and of course, all the nutritional support, the vitamin K2, the vitamin E, the systemic enzymes. I think where people get in trouble and get a surprise diagnosis with a serious disease is when they're not aware of even just this one subject. And these compounds build up over time. They're not on any strong binder like clinoptilolite. They've never taken Shilajit or never been consistent with it. They don't sauna regularly. That's where the accumulation starts to happen of all of these harmful compounds, as Dan said, endocrine disruptors. And the research is extensive on all of these compounds and what they do. And on his website, nadsunder.com, I like on the main page, you can click on each part of the problem and it links to a study or a article that you could read on the subject of what problems that these compounds cause, whether it's cancer or reproductive issues or skin issues or thyroid or liver issues. This can definitely be a root cause of people's problems. And in my opinion, if someone just relies on a whole food diet and doesn't emphasize supplementation, you're not going to be able to keep up with the oxidative stress. As I've talked about, the burn rate of nutrients are higher, the higher oxidative stress that you're under, and these compounds, the phthalates, the dyes, the PFCs, forever chemicals, these all cause oxidative stress. And so to blunt that, vitamin A is an antioxidant, vitamin E, vitamin C, B vitamins, amino acids like L-carnosine, like the zinc carnosine that I sell, that acts as an antioxidant. So I'm a big fan of stacking antioxidants, and I think the fear around antioxidant supplementation is invalid and not applicable to today's world. So if you want to check out the NADS products, it's nadsunder.com. And if you use the discount code Blackburn, that will save you 15%. My website is matt-blackburn.com. You could see my CLF protocol, all of my recommended products. I'm constantly going through and checking what I have on the website if I want to remove anything or add anything. These are all things that I've used over the years and found to be very helpful on my health journey. Then my brand is Mitolife. You can find that at mitolife.co. We have a lot of really cool products on there. Our water filtration technology is really next level and blows everything else out of the water. It's a complete custom made 7-stage water filter. And we also have a really effective KDF shower solution. It's what it's called. It's a significant amount of KDF 55 that removes chlorine, but also heavy metals. And there's also some activated coconut carbon in there that softens the water. We have fresh roasted coffee. We have grounding sheets, shampoo and conditioner that are super clean. And announcement, the Purely K vitamin K2 product is back in stock. That was one of the first Mitolife products that I came out with when I restarted the brand in 2019. And it's a combination of MK4 and MK7 forms of vitamin K2. And there's also K1 in there as well. So it's a comprehensive blend. A lot of vitamin K products, you're either getting only K1 or only MK4 or only MK7. We combine all of them, but not only combining all of them, but in significant high amounts. So 2,000 micrograms per capsule of MK4 form and 400 micrograms per capsule of MK7. And I'll often take 2 at a time. Some days I'll take 4 at a time because it's not only for calcium regulation, but it's also antioxidant support, brain support, ATP production. Vitamin K2 is a really underrated supplement. It does so many things besides just regulating calcium, and it's associated with vitamin D. That's just the very tip of the iceberg of what it does. So that's it for this week. Stay tuned for another show next Friday. Check me out on Instagram. It's Matt Blackburn. There's Mitolife on Instagram. I often go live on there. I post pretty much daily on the stories. And I'll see you guys next week. Stay supercharged.